Greetings YouTube. Okay, so after a couple of months of just sitting around watching everybody else's Transformers reviews, I thought it's about time I at least give it a go myself. I got a few absolute doozies on my toy shelf at the moment, but which one to start with? Both these guys are kinda cool. As you can see, they've had a little bit of custom work on them, one more than the other. And then I ended up thinking, well, hang on, I've done a few custom ones, so let's start with possibly one of my favourite custom jobs. So we'll get these two out of the way. Back in 2011, there was a product out called Perfect Effect Scouting Force, otherwise known as Not Reflector. And it was a homage to the G1 figure with 3 parts turning into a classic SLR camera. This is not that figure because I could not afford or bring myself to spend the £100 odd it would cost to pick him up. This instead is from my friend Tony over at Chimang Mung. And you won't actually find this on his shelves either, because there has been a lot of custom work on this. It's about $25 shipped if you don't necessarily want it to come with its packaging, and it comes in the most lurid shades of lime green, Skittles blue, and obnoxious purple. It looks as though it should have been a G2 release. It's about twice to 3 times the size of the original release. As you can see, here he is in camera mode. The plastic is a lot lighter, a lot more tacky feeling, very much pound shop materials. The colouring I got on this by leaving it to soak in RIT fabric dye with a little bit of acetone and as much heat as I dare put under it. The results have not been as effective as I thought they were going to be, but then again it was the second time I had used the same dye. He's had a little bit of spot paint in the lens, but otherwise this is how he has come out of the saucepan. This Imperfect Effect Scouting Force is an SLR camera in his alt mode. From the front he is not bad at all. From the bottom, yeah, still passable. From the sides you begin to see a couple of little problems. Just a little bit of gappiness there. And from the back, I suppose that we can fix the viewfinder with stickers, although on the modern one you would kind of be expecting to see a screen there. You will notice, those of you that have got the original, that visible head syndrome has disappeared because I have added just a little hinge there and the centre from a CD labelling kit just to give me a push button, although I haven't got it to click yet. Now, transformation on this guy is pretty much the same as the Perfect Effect version. If I just take off the camera lens, take off the flash bulb, and start to flick down these tabs, I can move away all of the accessories. One second. And separate him into his 3 components. Transformation is incredibly simple. Feet flip down. On this guy you also have to remove these 2 top pieces. the arms fold out at the side, and up, giving a classic Gigantor pose. Articulation on these guys is pretty good. You have ball jointed shoulders, elbows, thighs and knees, no articulation on the waist, no articulation on the head, and unlike the original, you also don't have articulation on either the fists or the ankles. That was just an oversimplification in order to make these cheap as chips. You'll also notice that the shoulders aren't on the same level because you have a little bit more articulation there, meaning you can actually get them to shrug when they haven't got the photos that Megatron wants. Other two figures are exactly the same, apart from it doesn't have that central piece there. As you can see, there is no such thing as unification of colour. You have the green, the purple and the blue pretty much splattered all over the place. Originally these three are sold separately, and I guess if you're lucky you can find a mix and match that will suit you a little bit better if you're wandering around the streets of Hong Kong or Guangzhou. But if you are posting these, it's pretty much potluck. The dyeing has made them quite uniform, which I'm happy with. I've done very little major resculpting on the figures, the main one being on one side I have added a little hinge with the head, just allowing you to hide that down to make the shutter button, thus avoiding the physical head syndrome that plagued both the Perfect Effect release and the original G1 toy. I have used Clear Slip, which is a framing product, basically little black PVC tubing in a few places, and I'll go into the reasons why later. I basically have packed under this guy's arms, dealing with the fact that they were hollow, and I've put two little slices in the feet there. Quite difficult to show off, but I will just pop these guys to the back and I will show you everything that I have just taken off the figures. Obviously, the first thing that you notice is the lens. This, like the original, separates into a jetpack and two little riot shields. You have the two shoulder pads I took off of the lead. You have the flash bulbs, which, if anybody has the original one, you'll see there's a lot less detailing on those, and they're hollow at the top. I've added a bar to support there, and also to hold in the three individual combat knives, which these guys come with. This one's shipped with two identical shoulders, so there is no left-right, which there were on the original, as they are supposed to clip onto shoulders as armour. And we have that part. Now, the bottom stand, again, comes with the tripod, which comes off. And in here I've done quite a lot of work. Basically cut down the pegs left and right so that they could hold the guns. These are usually stored in the lens on the official release. Yes, that is a bit of Lego, which I have used to extend the sniper rifle, because otherwise you could not get that to store anywhere on the robot, it being pretty much longer than anything that's there. On the original, that actually came off and all stored separately. I've also drilled out how these parts hook on, because it was just a little pin and it was pushing out the riot shield into a really distorted shape. They're now held in very stiffly with actual screws. This handle has been added in using a bit of a Gundam kit and another bit of frameless slip. And rather than just dye it, I spray painted that one. So, two standard rifles, shoulder pads, the weird flash gun thing, a couple of riot shields, knives, jetpack, sniper rifle and riot shield, and the Gatling gun tripod legs. Okay, let's get these guys kitted up and have a look at them armoured up. Now the first guy who I had put the slip into the arms to bulk those out is now sporting both riot shields, both short guns, and one of the combat knives. The guns are a little flatter than they were in the original. Rather than pegs, it's just a wider part of the form that's fitting into the hands. The shields did not originally fit on, and every time you put them on they would just fall off. I have had to, I can get focus in here, I've had to clear out a little more just in that curve, and the extra gubbins that I've added into the arm there means that there is something for it to actually press against. So it's now just a case of hooking it in, and there's not even a satisfying snap, but it is staying on there. I like having this guy dual wielding. Having the combat knife with him means that he can definitely do those final stand moments. He's probably the least well armed, but you gotta have one guy that runs in first and gets his ass kicked. Before I dress this guy up, I just want to show you quite how absolutely useless these shields are supposed to be. They're supposed to give you a barrage of missiles with staying on the bar. Excellent. Except as soon as you move it cools down again. So we have just completely forgotten about trying to get those to stick on, and instead we did something a little bit weird with the feet. Now, even the original had these big hollow gaps in it because it's part of the transformation, but inside there I have just put a little bit of padding so that these can slide in, and the other side sliding in, giving him a lot sturdier look. Meaning that he does look like a little bit more of a bruiser from every angle, and all ready to add There we go. The riot shield. And sniper rifle. Why is he going to have something for face-to-face combat and miles away combat together? I like those two together. Also, you can work that through there and have him taking pot shots from the safety of his armour. The last guy, I have done very little to actually alter the bot. So it really is just a case of slipping on his shoulder armour. This time it actually clips on very nicely if you get it the right way around. So yeah, put it on reverse to the way he had it on his head. The backpack has little notches on it, top and bottom, and these pegs which serve no other purpose, although they did in the original. Now this is going to make him incredibly back heavy, so we plug together the 3 legs of the tripod, put the hot shoe from the Flash into his hand, plug massive Gatling gun into there, and that gives him a little bit more balance. Yeah, that happens a lot. I am going to use the trick of putting some super glue in there and leaving it to dry just to shrink that down a little bit. But that's a pretty hefty looking figure. If I just bring in his compatriots. And just pull out a little bit to try and get all of those in. That's a pretty tasty looking army to put on your Decepticon ranks. It's taken me probably about 2 weeks on and off in my free time just to get them looking this good. I'll add some spot paint, put in the G1 green onto their chests, but if it's a case of $25 versus $100 and you get something which looks like this, it's definitely worth putting the time in. Okay, so we've done transformation, we've done accessories. What else do guys like Pyok and Optibotimus do? Oh yes, size comparisons. Now, I don't have the original PE to compare it to, but if you have a look through, you will see that the original is around that size. Yep, if you are putting together a Legends class army, it's absolutely perfect. Here, yeah, I actually like it being that bigger scale. I take the regular size of my army as being the deluxe class, and here is Mr. Overused Mold himself for size comparison. These are all about the same height as Starscream, meaning that your army's pretty much going to be in scale, according to the G1 cartoon. It's the same drone-like sculpt on all of the heads. Well, it would be, considering they're using practically one mold for everything here. But I like the way that these guys look. Reflector was not necessarily the smartest cookie in the jar.
he disappeared pretty soon after the first season of G1. But you know what? This is a cool toy. If you want to have one for your shelf and you don't want to pay the exorbitant prices for the reissued reflector, for the Perfect Effect Scouting Force, and you want to put the time in, it's definitely worth it.
Let's find out.
Okay, Reflector. Let's see what you can see.